People that want to build a house wonder how to start saving money to build a house. But if you're going to do that, you have to understand the process to break out of some financial patterns to make sure that you're actually saving money. In this video, I'm going to give you 4 things you can do to start saving money to actually build your dream home. Because it won't happen overnight, and you need to start making some decisions so that that dream actually becomes a reality. Let's go. When you're going to build a house, how much money do you need to start with? Where do you actually start? How much money is enough to really build your dream home? Well, the first thing you need to do is you need to know your numbers. You need to know how much does the house cost that you want to build. So what I would do is find the blueprint of the home you want to build, connect with a builder, and get a cost on what it's actually going to cost to put that house together. As well, get the cost for the land so you can know how much the entire project is going to cost. Because before you know how much to save, we need to know what our finish line is. How much is it actually going to cost? The first thing you'll have to save for is the down payment. And the bank will usually loan you in the 70 to 80% range, meaning your down payment is usually 20 to 30%. So if you want to build a $500,000 home, you need to come up with $100,000 or a little bit more. But if you own a piece of land, then you don't have to come up with that. So now we're just talking about the house. So there's a couple things we need to know here. We need to know how much does the land cost and do we have a piece of land? Some of you maybe inherited a piece of land and you have it sitting there and you want to put a house on it someday. So if we have the land taken care of, the discussion's different. But if you don't have the piece of land, we have to figure out where we want to build and then figure out what land is costing in that area. Because you all know this, no matter where you live, different places in town will cost you more to build because the land is more expensive. So here's what you need to do. Figure out where you want to build and figure out the cost of land. Then you want to figure out what kind of house you want to build and have a builder give you a cost on that project. After you have those 3 things done, where, how much is the land, and how much is the house, now we can know this is going to be a $500,000 project. So now I know if I'm going to go to the bank, I need to bring in the 1 to 150 range to make this transaction happen. Before I start saving to build a house, I have to know my numbers. I have to know what I'm actually going for. How much is the house going to cost? How much is the land going to cost? Where's it going to be? And then we can go from there. And blueprints are all over the place. Do you want a 3-bedroom ranch or do you want a 9-bedroom 2-story on land? Those are a little bit different. So knowing the kind of house you're going to build, and that's why picking a blueprint and taking it to a builder is really, really, really important, because that'll give you your hard construction cost, and then you can find out what land is going for in the area you want to build. Now you have your number. Then you go to the bank and ask them what kind of programs they have. Because some banks will have 20% down. Some banks have some loans that are even less than that. If you're a veteran, if you're a new home buyer, there's different programs banks will have when constructing a house. So before you go down the road of figuring how much you need, we need to talk to the bank and see what kind of programs they have available that we can take advantage of. The second thing I would do in saving money for a house is set up a specific bank account just for our house fund. My wife and I actually did this years ago. We set up a bank account and we put money into it every month, and it was untouchable money. We couldn't just pull it out and use it. It's a separate fund, and it was fun to see that continue to grow. And as we saw that continue to grow, we were working closer and closer and closer to our goal. So I would set up a separate fund so you can keep putting money into that. That's both psychological and practical. It's practical because I know what it's for, and money can go into there every single month or every single other month or every quarter, or whenever we have money to put in there, then it just goes into that account. It's also practical just because it separates it from the income of our finances, and then we're not dipping into it and taking it for bills, and it just separates it and sets it aside. It's a really good way to just practically manage the process and see where your money's at and see how much more you have to go. Before we go on to the next 2 tips, comment below, have you ever built a house, or do you have it as one of your goals and dreams to build a house? Where do you want to build? How much is it going to cost? Put it in the comments. I want to know what kind of house you want to build. And I love talking to our listeners. So I love to comment back and forth with you and hear what's going on in your life, especially if you're getting ready to build a house. The third thing you can do to start saving for a house is increase your savings. Take every extra that comes in and funnel it straight into that fund that we just built for our house. So if you get a tax refund, let's put it into that account. You get a stimulus, let's put it into that account. You get a bonus at work, put it into that account. A side job at work or a side job and a moonlight job on the nights and weekends, if you're in the trades, put it into that account. Let's continually see that account grow by increasing our savings. As a side note, I like to thumb through my expenses and see what I'm paying for that I don't need. If I'm paying for things I don't need and don't really use, then let's funnel that money into there. We'll continue to see that account grow faster, and we can actually get into our dream house quicker. And the fourth tip is to shop your contractors. Every time I built a house, contractors can range by 20%. That's a lot. That means a $500,000 home, you might find somebody who's reputable to do it for $400 or $425. You could find a huge difference in the different kind of contractors you use. I like to use contractors that have less than 10 employees, and here's why. You often will get better service and you'll get better prices. When you go for big box builders, they often have better systems in place. However, you're paying for a lot more billboards around town, a lot more commercials on TV, and a lot more Facebook ads. With smaller companies, they really work off word of mouth and referrals, and you don't have to pay for that big marketing budget overhead and huge shop. So if you can shop at contractors that have less than 10 employees, sometimes even less than 5, you're going to really see a better price come your way, and you'll often get better customer service. And one more power tip. When you're going after banks, shop your banks. Meet with at least 3 different banks, because different banks will have different programs. One bank might be really good at refinancing your home, or really good at new home sales and new home purchases. Some banks may be really good with FHA loan, which is the Federal and Housing Administration loan for new home buyers. But some banks might be really good development banks, meaning construction loans. You want to find a bank that's construction loan friendly. And some banks just aren't. They don't do that process well. Because in a construction loan, when you're saving up money to actually build a house, you're going to get a construction loan. That's the kind of loan they give for projects like this. And in a construction loan, you'll have some work done, and then you'll go to the bank, they'll sign waivers, they'll make sure the work's been done, then they'll cut the check, then you pay your contractors. You need a bank that knows that process well. I've done construction projects with banks where that just wasn't their cup of tea. It was really clunky. So you really want to find a construction-friendly bank. And you can often go on their website and just get a feel for what kind of bank they're doing and what kind of lending they're doing. Here's another way to find which banks are construction-friendly. Go to the private groups in Facebook and search homeowners in your area. Homeowners group of Austin, Texas. Often you'll find homeowners that just trade back information. Hey, does anybody have a pool person in this area? Hey, does anybody have a landscaper? And they just trade back information. You go in there and say, hey, we're looking to build in this area. I'm looking for a good bank that does good construction loans. Does anybody have one? Where my wife and I live, in Phoenix, Arizona, there's a Phoenix Living group where it's just people trading back different services they use and what restaurants are good. And it's just that area. It's a good place to find who's really loaning on these types of loans. Because again, you don't want to just go after one bank or take a loan from the bank in which you do your banking with. For example, maybe you bank with a local credit union, but that local credit union might be terrible at loaning for your project. In fact, my wife and I, where we do all of our banking, they're awful at loans for real estate. And real estate is what I do. So I have never gotten a loan from them for real estate. I always go to banks that do that in a much more concise and better way. It's the same thing for building a house. You want a bank that really is good at construction loans, and even when you find a bank that's good at construction loans, you want to funnel it down, find the banks that really do well in that area, and then you want to interview 2 or 3. Because after you find ones that are good at construction loans, then which ones have better interest rates? Which ones have better programs? Which ones maybe have a little bit less money you need down? Because remember, if you're going to save money to get into a house, the less you have to save, the faster you can get into that house. Maybe you can find a bank that'll do it for they'll loan for 85%. You only need to come up with 15% of the down payment or 10% of the down payment. Finding banks that do that will really, really, really help you make a decision, and maybe you have to save a little bit less money to get into that project. Also, make sure you watch our video on how to get started in real estate investing, because while you're building your own home, you also want to be building your wealth. And real estate is the fastest and best, most trusted way to do that. So make sure you watch our video on how to get started in real estate investing. I'll see you in that video.